lesson, we're going to take a look at when do we paragraph in a narrative piece of writing. So what I want for you to do first is turn to page 92 in your resource journal or wherever this piece of paper is right here. And what we're going to look at is the very top of this piece of text. At the top, it talks about when to paragraph in a narrative, and it gives you 5 different bullet points of when to do that. So the first thing that I want for you to write down over here is how to paragraph, the actual literal how to do it on your computer. When you're ready to paragraph, you go before the first word in the new paragraph, you hit the Enter key, and then you hit the Tab key. You usually only have to do this the first time, and then that tells your computer that that's what you want to have happen. And so pay attention that when you hit Enter, it doesn't start tabbing automatically so that it doesn't start to go over into the middle of your paper. So the 5 times that you paragraph in a narrative piece, these are by no means the end-all be-all, they're just some general rules to think about, are this idea of whenever the camera moves. And that is like in a movie, if they would be watching one character who's doing something and then it would switch to another character. Or if they're watching one character and then the camera would switch to the table because something happened there, you would put a new paragraph to show your reader that the shift of what you're wanting us to focus on has changed. So we have a new time. These are some typical phrases that we use to do that. Sometime later in the day, etc. The new place, if you move your character from one location to another, you want to have a paragraph go there. A new major event, we often use the word suddenly or all of a sudden when we are creating these new events. So that is another place that you want to put a new paragraph because you're telling your reader, hey, look at this. And so every time a new paragraph happens, you're telling your reader to pay attention. And we also have the new speaker, which you did with the dialogue lessons. When a new character starts talking, even if it's just a single word, there should be a new paragraph. And what many of you will notice is that you have a lot of dialogue that you will end up adding to in order to revise your piece. The 5th way is actually one of my favorite ways. It's the creative paragraph. It's when a writer does it just to draw attention to something that he or she may feel is important, or look at this, or something keeps happening. That repetition and over again is often a good place to do this. So these are the general rules on page 92. What I'd like for you to do is find this mentor text about paragraphing right here. My resource journal, it's on page 114. And we're going to take a look at a couple of different mentor texts so that we can figure out different ways that these authors indent paragraphs. We're not going to look at this one. This one right here is that idea of dialogue. So we're going to jot that down. You've done that. You've looked at other paragraphing with dialogue. So we're not going to look at that one quite as much. What I do want us to do is go down to this one about famous last words. We're going to take a look here at what Katie Allender did. So I should really go back to bed. Notice it's in italics. The character is talking to herself in this situation. She's talking in her head, and therefore, instead of quotation marks, the writer has put those words into the italics. But as I hesitated, since she's got these 3 dots, drip. Let's be clear, simply being in Jonathan's house seemed like more than enough of an imposition. I wasn't exactly dying to bust into my stepfather's office uninvited, but drip. Look at that. They're tying this idea of suspense. So not only is it a single word, but it's the same word in both places. And then notice what she did here. It's almost as if the sentence just continues. So like the drip is its own paragraph because it's doing its own thing, but she didn't start this line with a capital, but drip. It wasn't like I was going to sit at his desk and mess with his stuff. So here, she's kind of using that repeated drip, like an important onomatopoeia word, or maybe if your character has someone coming after them, it's the footsteps, the footfalls that he or she is hearing as that is happening. So that's another possibility. We're going to also take a look at the testing here. She does some creative paragraphing as well, which you'll see in your sentence fluency lessons if you haven't done those yet. You're getting into these ideas of these really short sentences and creating these suspenseful situations, because short paragraphs and short sentences create suspense for your reader. And so if you have a suspenseful scene, those are really easy ways to add into that anxiety element. So 2 minutes left to go. I take one last sip of water and store the bottle in my bag. 1 minute. So again, we have the idea of repetition, although it's not the same language. It is this idea of 2 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute. And so there is the repetition of the fact that the minute is being counted down. I realize anything could be outside that door. Putting Zine's communicator in the side pocket of my bag, I reach into it one last time. When the clock hits 0, I stand with my bag on my shoulder and the small black gun in my hand. Well, as a reader, I'm like, why does she need a gun wherever she's going? The side of the metal box swings open as a recorded voice says, "The 4th round of the testing has now begun." So it's interesting that she didn't put 0. Like, I wonder, that must not be the important part. It's got to be the fact that the box now swung open. So it's like 2 minutes, 1 minute, the box is swinging open. So we're switching elements of what's happening. So here we have like the countdown. And here it's like the last check. And then here she's got like, there's a new thing happening. So like on page 92, as we talk about a new major event, it could be that they're going to a new place because the door is opening, which is leading to a new location. Place or event would be, and these are more like, this is like a creative element here. So, okay. Let's see. Take a look at this one. Last one. We may not get all the way through this. I just want us to take a look at it. Down, Dawkins yelled. Typo, period. Notice again. So he yelled. Greta and I dove under the table. As I did, I glimpsed Dawkins swirling the blade around himself in a bright halo of steel, his sword arm moving blindingly fast as he carved his way through the airborne trash. None of it touched him. So I see this right here is kind of a like a look here element because it could have been combined with the other ones. These two, though, the short shows the anxiety. The writer has said, down, Dawkins yelled. Greta and I dove under the table. Like, you're showing this immediacy of what is happening, which creates that anxiety in your reader. So not only could they go together, you're showing the intent of pulling them apart to make sure that your reader is feeling these things with you. So a lot of what you see here is probably that creative element. But what you want to see or what you want to notice is anytime the camera would move or something new is happening, you open up any sort of book that you're reading, especially fiction, you will notice that there are generally not these really long paragraphs. There will be some, and there will be some that are definitely longer than others as they're describing a situation or a setting element, but you will typically see shorter paragraphs to keep your reader moving along through your piece. So your job now is to go into your dialogue, and you may use pages 114 and page 92 kind of as your guides. And I want for you to find a section specifically where you have a pretty large size paragraph, which could just be, you know, this big, the size of a thumb or the size of a finger, and just kind of read through it and find a place where you could add in another paragraph to help break it up for your reader. Trying any of these, trying the creative paragraphs, you could try do the sentence fluency lesson or the repetition lessons that are after this so that you can look for other ways to include paragraphs. If you have a really big paragraph, you're not sure what to do with it, please bring it to a teacher so we can help you. But the goal is to not have super paragraphs, which are the full page, but shorter and smaller ones as you go through. All right, happy paragraphing.